Hi guys, it's Ryan from privatebanker.com. Just doing my nightly recap here for crude oil and gold. Going to touch base on gold quickly and then go through crude and just go from there. So what we see today on gold was we've seen imbalance overnight, and we started trading below yesterday's trade. I mean, yesterday in the pit session we see a nice long liquidation profile with sellers coming into the market. And what we see is in this market currently is you see this sort of one time frame, and we see this nice elongation up, balance, long liquidation back to the balance, and so we just start to put this together as a profile that we start to track. And what we see today was basically the market just open up at this the lower distribution of this upper composite, and what we saw was just a spike into the news. We see a spike down with a potential breakout, and there was just no sellers here, so just buyers stepped in and basically just took this all the way back up to the established value area here. So you just basically call this a mean reversion, I suppose, on this current composite that's starting to build here. So I mean, if we did see this selling tail hold, and then we could have maybe come down and started to test some of these lower levels that we've seen when with the bulls coming in, but there was just no bid here, and like I said, the market just basically just saw a mean reversion back to this established value area. So interesting day, quite a hard day to trade. Kind of had me on my back foot this morning. I mean, what we saw, the news that came out, I basically just got short after the news came out at 8:30, and I just basically got short almost off the open after the news came out, and then with a stop inside value. And what we saw was we see a push down below the low of day, and we see price exploration to the sell side. But you can see as this got sold down, I mean, Vwap just didn't really go anywhere. I mean, we didn't see an imbalance start, and we just see responsive buyers just basically back to the developing value area low, and the market then started to become there was a bit of a fight here, and then the market came back into balance, and we just see a destination trade to the other side of value, and just an imbalance to the buy side on the close. And what we basically did is we just see a gap fill from yesterday's trade. I mean, this was yesterday's trade in the pit session. Like I said, we opened gap down, tested the extreme, and then we just see a reversion back to this established price area regards this balance area that's coming in. You can see that we found balance here on this day. We found balance here when we sold off, and we had that previous balance on Friday. So at the minute, this $74, this $1,274 is a very important price level that the market just keeps gravitating to. I mean, we've got FMC minutes out tomorrow, and I mean, in regards to higher time frames, we're still looking bearish, but we just keep finding these buyers coming into the market. So it's just a very confused market at the minute. It's just no real directional conviction. I mean, we see the breakout to the sell side, and then we see the bulls come back in for the high time frame mean reversions, and like I said, it's just a pretty confused market at the minute with no real direction. But I mean, like I said, the macro, I'm still leaning to the sell side. So see what happens here. I mean, I was expecting this market to come in and start to bracket down here, but I just was a little bit too early, and it looks like we could potentially start to bracket here now, depending on how we play. But it just came up further than I expected, tested this previous breakout area into some moving averages, and like I said, it does look like we've got potential two-way trade coming back into the market, and we could start to balance between this 1242s and 1280s. But until we see some more sell side here, I mean, who knows. Very weird bar today. We had this sort of upside out of this bullish doji, and it's just a doji. We opened up, tested higher, sold down. There was no sellers. We just come all the way back up to where the market opened. I mean, it just shows a real lack of decision. But I mean, we are starting to sell off into the Globex open, and we are looking bearish on the MCAD still. And like I said, most of the higher time frames we are looking bearish. I mean, if we look at the weekly, we came in, we see a reversion to the mean to last week, we tested the value area low, and we just basically see a destination trade from the value area low back up to the high, back to this week's VWAP, and already we're starting to sell back into this value area. So I mean, maybe we will continue to sell down here with these areas in place, but just a very like I said, very weird market at the minute. And if we look at the monthly, we've also found responsive sellers from last month. We see a reversion back to this month's mean, which is suggesting that two-way trade balance is back in the market. Obviously, we just auctioned up to the developing value area higher, testing that previous value area again where we broke out, and we're finding some sellers here. So obviously, the next sort of place we're most likely to revert to is back down to sort of 59s, and then potentially down to 1247s. But I mean, if we continue to try and come back into this value area, then we will see probably most likely a destination trade to the other side, which will be back to the 1300s. So it's just, like I said, just a very undecisive market at the minute. There's just no real clear direction or way we want to go here. So be interesting to see how we continue to play out and break of this market. But if we do look at the higher time frames, I mean, all we're just seeing is just the market just consolidating again. So I mean, you could basically just to make this into a new wedge almost. I mean, I have got this drawn on my top down analysis charts. I mean, this sort of new wedge that we can potentially see in play here. So just something to observe. I mean, we've got this lower sort of trend line coming in now, the consolidation, which could act as overhead resistance, and we've got this lower area which we need to break now to continue to this downside if this is what we're going to see. But like I said, just very, very strange market, just consolidation and just no real clear directional conviction at the minute on gold. I mean, I've just been reading a lot of posts about all the different views on this market at the minute, and to me, I mean, like I said, the macro is still looking bearish, but just very, very undecisive market at the moment with no real direction. So trying to pick a direction at the moment is quite difficult. Anyway, I'm going to just quickly touch base on crude here and then call it a night. Pretty cool day on crude. I mean, we've been one time framing up for these 8 days, I think now. Let's check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, today would have been the 9th day of one time framing higher, and we've finally seen this one time frame taken out, and the market come back to the 5 exponential moving average. So this upper distribution is quite important that we're seeing in play now. I mean, I had it pegged out like this today, so we've got this upper distribution, we had this clear ledge. So what we basically see was buyer was responsive off the open, we came up, auction to the high, and basically there was just like a suspended auction, I suppose, here, where the buy-in just got just dried up, and then we just see a reversion back down to this lower distribution here. So I will merge these two together now, and we can see how this upper distribution is forming. I mean, the value is still higher, and the mean price is still into 106.80. So expectations of this market to continue higher here, but obviously we're seeing clear two-way trade balance into this market now as the one time frame has been taken out. So what will happen is price will get pushed higher with value. So if we do continue to trade above the 5, then we will see a breach of the 107.20s. If we do look at the higher time frame VWAPs, we are still out of balance on the monthly, so I mean, I will not be leaning short on this market until we sort of clearly break the 106s, and then we'll look for a possible mean reversion back down to this lower distribution and clean up some of the gaps that we're seeing in the RTH pit trade. That's just what I'm seeing at the minute. Like I said, if we do continue to rotate here above this sort of 106.20s, then we most likely will see price pushed through this higher here as value sort of pushes it through and catches up. And we're still looking pretty out of balance on the quarterly and the yearly, but the longer we trade up in these areas, obviously the higher the value gets pulled up. We did open in a bullish structure on the weekly, and we have seen sort of some tests back into this area now. So if we do continue to hold in this week's value, last week's value area, and we see obviously a bearish skew on the VWAP, then this is the first sort of sign that maybe we will come back into balance on the monthly, and see a reversion down to lower prices here. I mean, on the higher time frames on the weekly, I mean, we are in this huge wedge, and we are at a real extreme here. So who knows whether we're going to come up and test that previous year's high, or whether we're going to come back into the wedge and continue to coil here and compress. But if we do see a breakout here, we could see a pretty aggressive move higher, maybe. Who knows? But anyway, that's just what I've seen on crude oil. I mean, the destination today for me most likely would have been to start buying this developing value off of and with stops below the previous day's value. I'm just making sure I wasn't actually trading crude today. I was watching it, so I mean, Okay, so what I would have looked for is off of the open. Obviously, I would have looked for buying below the previous day's low, and then with a reversion back to the mean. And once we see that we couldn't break above that high, which obviously the 107.20s, which should have been important support, and then the one time frame it got taken out in F period, that was a clear signal to get out of the trade, and then possibly look for a short. And then the perfect short was when we came back into the Globex developing value. You could have used the point of control and the previous value as confidence for your stops, and you would have looked for a destination trade short back down to the developing value area low. I mean, you could have obviously got some extension on here if you're looking for this sort of 106 point of control from that previous day as a target, and maybe the 5 exponential moving average, but the conservative target would have been into the developing value area low Globex. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. If you have any questions, please ask me on the forum or email me, and I'll catch you all tomorrow. Take care, goodbye.